Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be talking about equivalent forms of rational numbers. So we will be converting from fractions to decimals and from decimals to fractions. Before we get started, let's look at a couple definitions. A rational number is any number that can be written as the ratio of two integers. For example, 6 is a rational number because it can be written as the ratio of 6 to 1. 0.5 is a rational number because it can be written as the ratio of 1 to 2. Every rational number can be written as a terminating decimal or a repeating decimal. A terminating decimal, such as 625 thousandths, has a finite number of digits. In other words, it ends. A repeating decimal has a block of one or more digits that repeat indefinitely. And in just a moment, we'll be looking at examples of both of those. Now, let's start by talking about how to convert fractions to decimals. So there's two methods you can use. The first method is when you have a denominator that will easily scale to 10 or 100. So, for example, if I wanted to take the fraction 14/5 and convert it to a decimal, the first thing I would do is notice that 14/5 is an improper fraction. So I know my decimal is going to be bigger than 1. So I also notice that my denominator is 5, and that will easily scale to 10 if I multiply it by 2. So if I scale the 5 by 2, then I have to also scale the 14 by 2, which would be 28. And then we know 28 tenths is the same thing as 28 divided by 10, or 2.8. So that's one way you can turn a fraction into a decimal mentally. If you know it will scale to 10 or 100, you can do that in your head pretty easy. Now, if I had 4/25ths, I would notice that 25 would scale to 100 pretty easily if I multiplied it by 4. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by 4 also, and that would give me 16/100ths. And we write 16/100ths as 0.16. So 4/25ths is equivalent to 0.16 or 16/100ths. Now, if the denominator does not easily scale to 10 or 100, then we just divide the numerator by the denominator. Now, I'll be using a calculator to divide these because in 8th grade, you'll be able to use a calculator on your state test. So I'll just take my numerator, 5, and divide it by 8, and that will give me 0.625, or 625 thousandths. Okay, let's look at 4/9. If I want to convert 4/9 to a decimal, I'd take my numerator, 4, and divide it by my denominator, 9. 0.4444 repeating. So to indicate that it repeats or goes on forever, I'm going to put a little bar over the 4. Now, while we're here talking about ninths, I want you to notice that ninths have an interesting pattern. Let's say I wanted to convert 1/9. 1 divided by 9. So notice it is 0.111 repeating. Okay. What about 2/9? Make a guess what you think that's going to be. Let's try your guess. 0.222 repeating. This pattern is very interesting with ninths, and we're going to talk about it some more. But just know if you have a ninth, you're always going to have that repeating decimal. Okay? In example 1, it says convert each fraction into its equivalent decimal form, then state what type of decimal it is. Is it a terminating or is it a repeating decimal? So let's talk about 3/20ths. Now, 3/20ths I can do pretty easily without a calculator because 20 will scale to 100 pretty easily if I multiply it by 5. So if I multiply the numerator by 5, I get 15. So 15 100ths would be equivalent to 0.15. That's 15 100ths. Now, 5 6. 5 6. 6 does not scale to 10 or 100 very easily, so I'm just going to use division here. I'll take my numerator 5 and divide it by 6, and I get 0.8333 repeating. So I'm just going to put a bar over the 3 to indicate the 3 is terminating. And by the way, I forgot to write on our first example A that it was a terminating decimal. And problem B was a repeating decimal. All right, 38/3. 3, our denominator of 3, does not scale to 10 or 100. So I'm just going to use division here and take 38 divided by 3, and I get 12.6666 repeating. So I'm going to put my little bar over the 6 and say that this is a repeating decimal. All right, 2 and 11/25ths. So I know I'm going to have 2 point something. So I just need to figure out what the decimal is for 11/25ths. So 11 divided by 25. And that would give me 2 and 44 100ths. So this is a terminating decimal. It did not terminating. It did not repeat. All right, 2 and 7/9. So that's going to be 2 point something. Now, remember what we learned about ninths up here. 1/9 was 0.1 repeating. 2/9 was 0.2 repeating. 4/9 was 0.4 repeating. So 7/9 is going to be 0.7 repeating. And that would be a repeating decimal. All right, -10/3. So -10 divided by 3, and that gives us -3.3 repeating. So this will also be a repeating decimal. So the easiest way to go from fraction to decimal is simply take the numerator, divide it by the denominator. All right. Now, let's go the other way. In our next part of the lesson, we're going to take decimals and to convert them to fractions. So let's talk about terminating decimals first. In problem A, we have 0.8. So this is the tenths place. So 0.8 could be rewritten as 8 tenths. And then if that fraction will reduce, you need to reduce it. So these will both divide by 2. So that would be 4/5. So 0.8 can be rewritten as 8 tenths, which can be rewritten as 4/5. All right. B, 0.45. So this time our decimal is 2 places. So that's the 100th place. So this could be rewritten as 45, not tenths, but this time it's 100ths because they're 2 places. Now, your calculators will reduce these fractions for you. Let me show you how to do that. You type the numerator divided by the denominator, and then at the left-hand corner here in blue, there's a fraction symbol. Just press that, press it again, and I get 9/20ths. So this would reduce to 9 20ths. All right. Problem C, 0.125. So this time we have 3 decimal places. So our denominator will be 1,000. So I'll have 125 over 1,000. And then those are pretty big numbers, so I'll use my calculator to reduce that for me. 125 over 1,000. And that would reduce to 1/8. Now, that's for terminating decimals. If you have repeating decimals, we've already talked about repeating decimals. So in problem A, we have 0.7777. So this is like this, 0.7 repeating. If you have one number that repeats, you're going to use that number as your numerator. And then because there's one number repeating, your denominator will be 19. So 0.7 repeating is 7/9. Now in problem B, we have 0.12, 12, 12, and forever. So this time, let me draw one. You have 2 numbers that are repeating. So those 2 numbers become your numerator. But because there are 2 numbers repeating, your denominator is 99. Now, let's put that in our calculator and let it see if it will reduce. So I'm going to hit my fraction. 4/33. All right, problem C, 0.123123. So this time, there are 3 numbers repeating. Pause the video and try this problem on your own. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. I used the 3 numbers that were repeating as my numerator. And then, because there were 3 numbers repeating, 9, 9, 9. And then I used my calculator to help me reduce it. Those are really big numbers. 41 over 333. If you got any of that incorrect, please pause the video and fix your answer now. If you got it correct, congratulations, you're ready to go on to example 2. So in example 2, it says convert each decimal into its equivalent fraction form. So in problem A, we have 0.55. This is a terminating decimal. And for terminating decimals, we put the number 55 over its appropriate place value. So because this was 2 places, that's our hundredths place. So 0.55 is equivalent to 55 100ths. Then I put that in my calculator and I attempt to reduce the fraction to lowest terms, which it would reduce to 11/20ths. All right. B, 0.275. This is another terminating decimal, so I'm going to use its place value. So 275 becomes my numerator, and this is to the 1,000ths place. So 1,000ths becomes my denominator. And then again, I'll use my calculator to reduce this fraction for me. 11/40. All right. Problem C, 6.12. So I know this is going to be a mixed fraction, mixed number. So I know it's going to be 6 and a fraction. So to get that fraction, I would take the 12 and place it over 100 because there's 2 decimal places. Then I will reduce that on my calculator. 12 100ths would reduce to 3/25. So my final answer would be 6 and 3/25. All right. Problem D. Pause the video and try problem D on your own. All right, welcome back. I know this is going to be a mixed number. So I have 4 and 6 100ths. And then I need to reduce that. So when I reduce that, those will both divide by 2. That would be 3/50ths. So 4 and 3/50ths. All right, problem E. This is the first one we've done that is a repeating decimal. So 0.44 repeating. So really this is the same thing as 0.4 repeating. And we already know if there's one number repeating, our numerator is the number that repeats over 1/9. So 0.44 would be 4/9. All right, problem F, 0.36 repeating. So this is repeating, so our numerator is 36. There's two numbers that repeat, so I put it over a 99, and then use my calculator to reduce that into lowest terms, and that would reduce to 4/11. All right, example 3. A 5/16 inch long bolt is used in a machine. What is the length of the bolt expressed as a decimal? So I want to take 5/16 and turn it into a decimal. So I'm going to take 5 divided by 16, and I want it as a decimal. So 0.3125 inches would be 5/16 expressed as a decimal. Example 4. A heartbeat takes 0.8 seconds. How many seconds is this written as a fraction? So 0.8. This is a terminating decimal. So our numerator is 8, and it's one number after the decimal, so that would be the tenths place. And then I can reduce that by dividing those both by 2. So 4/5 of a second. Example 5. The average score on a biology test was 72.1 repeating. Write the average score using a fraction. Well, I know it's going to be a mixed fraction, 72 and something. Well, since it's 0.1 repeating, I know that is going to be 1/9. 72 and 1/9. Example 6. The metal in a penny is worth about 0.505 cents. How many cents is this written as a fraction? So this is a terminating decimal. So I'm not going to use nines here. It's a terminating decimal. So 505 will be my numerator. And it's 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal. So that's the 1,000ths place. So 505 divided by 1,000. And then I'm going to get my calculator to reduce that for me. 101 over 200. And that concludes today's lesson, equivalent forms of fractions and decimals.